3, 2, 1,
Jingle! Happy time has just begun. Brother, sister, smart, dumb, fun.
yeah.
What's up, you guys? Look at us. We're a threesome again. Oh, look at us. It is Sunday. It is 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 5 p.m. Central Standard Time. It's the Brothers Sisters with super special guest star, Chip Moehle.
That's me.
That's you. That is correct. We were just talking about Thanksgiving stuff, and it was awesome.
It was delicious.
So, okay, Chip, can you tell us more about the chicken pot pie and the pumpkin pie and stuff?
Yes.
Can
So
you tell us more?
So the it was peanut butter and butterscotch with marshmallows mixed in. So it was like a bar, kind of like a, almost like a brownie or kind of thing. And then I thought I wanted to drizzle the caramel sauce on it, but it was like, no, that would be overdoing it at that point. But my sister-in-law is a great cook, and oh my god! And then we had to take some home, and it was already gone. Between my mother and I, it was already gone by Friday.
Nice, well done.
Nice, good job.
Yeah.
Good job, you guys. That's some power eating right there. Yeah. Anne, how was your Thanksgiving?
It was good. We were up in the Traverse City area, and my sister-in-law and friend Liz outdid herself. The turkey, the whole 9 yards, of course. And then her daughter, my niece Kylie, she made homemade challah bread and pumpkin macarons. So that was also very. And then Duncan made the pies, and they were amazing because he uses the Sister Pie, which is a bakery in Detroit. They have a recipe book, and he uses their pie crust. And oh my god, it's so good! So yeah, it was fun. We had a good time.
Nice. That Duncan's a clever pie bastard. He really
Isn't he?
What about you, Miss Jenny?
Well, we hosted. We had the family, and then I had a couple of friends over as well, and we did something different. And actually, I was going to throw that out in my smart dumb fun thing this week. We got our turkey from Barrett Smokehouse, and I'll talk more about that. But it was good. It was chill. We had too much to eat. We're still eating it. I literally think we had so much sugar in the house that Joe actually was like suffering from like sugar coma the last couple of days. He kind of snapped out of it today, which is good.
Yeah. 20 grams of protein, stat.
Totally.
Exactly. Here, eat this drumstick.
Eat this drumstick immediately. So it was a good Thanksgiving. It was a restful week. This is the first week in forever, or first time in forever that I've had a full week off for Thanksgiving, which was much needing. And so I went into school and worked for a little while today, and it was all right. It was okay. We spent most of Friday shoveling. So did a lot of shoveling this weekend. But I can shovel little bits of snow forever. And I can't shovel lots of snow for very long. So I like to go out several times and shovel because then it's just a couple inches here, a couple inches there.
Yeah.
I can do that over and over again forever. So so that's what we did. So
Nice.
So we are here. We are, last week on the 22nd, a couple of big blockbuster movies got released. That would be Gladiator II, and then of course Wicked. Two very different genres of movies. You have Gladiator II, which is your basic swords and sandals epic, and then you have Wicked, which is your basic, stage production that's been adapted for the cinema. And both two big spectacular spectacle movies with lots of stuff going on. So we're going to talk about those this week. But so it's been a full week. Now, did you or Chip go and enjoy the Black Friday or the Small Business Saturday this weekend?
No. Doug and I went grocery shopping today, and I'm hoping not to have to do it again until January because that was hellacious. But we got so much food. I was like, we are not leaving. We're not going into another store for the rest of the year.
Joe and I went to Costco last Sunday. We had a few things to pick up. And we do a lot of sundry shopping at Costco, like, like cat litter and things like that. So we did a little bit of that. And we got there like right after they opened, and it was really full of people.
Actually, we went to
Yeah.
Costco this morning at 10:30 and it was dead. I have never
Good.
been in the Costco when it was so dead. I was like, oh, this is
Awesome.
yeah, everybody still had a turkey hangover, so nobody was quite getting to Costco yet.
Nice. Either that or everybody's going to wait and do their Cyber Monday deals tomorrow
Yeah.
because, we can't just be done shopping. Nope. Now we have to Cyber Monday too. So there you go. Yeah. No. All right. So let's go ahead and jump into this. As you
Okay.
know, we are boop. There it is. Yes. As they did with the Barbie and Oppenheimer movie last year, they morphed the names into Barbenheimer. Well, they've done it this year with the Gladiator and the Wicked. We have Glicked. There you go. Because everybody was hoping for that big thing. Yeah. All right.
Yes.
Anyway. All right. Anne, why don't you take us through our spiel?
All right, so welcome everybody, or welcome back to the Brother Sister Smart Dumb Fun. We are Anne and Janice Brothers, and our last name is Brothers. We are sisters, and we make it work. So there you
We
go.
do.
It's true.
We're in our 50s, Gen X, which
Also
means
true.
that we owe our robust health to Flintstones chewable vitamins.
Truth.
That's right. It's something that's not quite candy, not quite dirt. So
I could still feel them. They had that sort of sweety, soury taste to them, and I could still feel it stuck in my teeth. And so you spend like the next half hour after chewing your vitamins, kind of working it out of your teeth, And it's still that sharp sort of. You're like, yep, there's some more. Yep, there's some more. Yep, there's some more.
I just remember on The Simpsons when Bart was sick and he was like, more Flintstones chewable morphine, please.
Yeah, but you know what? I loved them. But Mom didn't have those around the house. That was a Grandma Brothers thing. Grandma Brothers had Flintstones chewables, but Mom and Dad didn't.
It's
fact,
funny because I found a retro picture of the Flintstones that I put here on our slide, and it said "made for kids" because the odds are against them. And I thought that is so Generation X because the only thing that's taking care of us is the Flintstone
I
chewable
love it.
vitamins.
And Bugs Bunny,
The universe
man, it was
will
like,
kill you. Eat these
It
chalky
was.
things.
I'm like, it's your only protection against the universe.
It is. Oh man, hose water, neglect, and Flintstones chewable vitamins.
Yep. Yeah. Wow. Okay. Yeah.
Oh man. Okay. So anyway, if you haven't
That's so
noticed
funny.
already, we talk about smart stuff, dumb stuff, fun stuff, or any combination of the three. We are not cool, hip, or sexy. We know this because our feet hurt.
All the time. It's that whole arthritis thing. Of all the things that I wish for how, I'm like, I don't want to be young again because I want to be young. I want to be young again because I can walk
Right?
without pain.
Right? Without people going, is something wrong? Are you okay?
Like being able to just get up from a chair and walk normally. I'm like, hey, look at that. Look at me.
Look at me. Yeah. So when I wrote, I was like, every time I add one of these things to our slide, I try to think of something else so that I have a running list going. And I was like, man, why aren't we not cool, hip, or sexy? And then my next thought was like, God, my feet hurt. I was like, oh, yay, there we go.
Ask and you shall receive.
Exactly. It's inspiration.
Yeah. Nope. Yeah.
All right. So we are not a celebrity, influencer, or true crime podcast. We are the cool ants of podcasting. Make of that what you will.
Yeah.
Indeed. My nephew feels that we should rebrand ourselves as America's favorite ants.
Oh, there you go.
I like that.
Like,
Me
let's go.
too.
Yeah.
Me
Yeah.
too.
I'm
So,
gonna totally buy that.
So we're great to listen to when you want to learn things about stuff and you need something entertaining after all that family time.
Ooh,
Yeah.
Yep.
yeah. I get that. Yeah.
Yeah. So this is not a GPG or even PG-13 podcast. And I can tell you right now, I will not be able to contain my swears in my review of Gladiator II. So heads up, folks.
Ooh.
All right. You can join us
What
on
about
our
those kids right
website.
now?
Exactly. You can join us on our website, Spotify, Apple Podcast, iHeartRadio, and Amazon Music. And like us, follow us, smash the bell,
Smash
and
the-
leave us a review. Give us your feedback with our questions and answers and our polls. And don't forget that the other cool aunt in our podcast is Alexa. If you ask her to play us, she'll do it.
Aunt Alexa, would you play us?
Auntie Alexa.
Ooh, she's talking to me right now because
Oh.
our Alexa's like right next to her, where I do the show. So I'm like, Aunt Alexa,
She's all like,
play my podcast.
my feet hurt. Leave me alone.
Exactly. I'm taking my vitamins because my feet hurt. And that's a funny thing. It's like, okay, making this connection is that, our generation is really into like supplements. I think it all started because of Flintstone's chewable vitamins.
I agree.
Mhm.
I agree. Plus, cereal fortified with 32 vitamins and minerals.
Exactly. They were pushing the fortification on us
Yeah.
when we were
Totally.
children. So
Good. Well, the good news is we won't have to worry about that anymore because our new health dude, what's his name? The one who's
John
I
F.
don't
K.
wanna say his
Jr.,
name.
John.
RFK.
I don't like
RFK,
to say
that's
his
it.
name because he might appear in front of me. But we're not gonna have to worry about that anymore because
No.
we're all just
Actually,
gonna be.
He's going to probably push Flintstone's vitamins.
probably
Well,
Jenny
maybe he
or
will.
Duncan
They're
and I
so
were
good.
we were driving back and we stopped in Mount Pleasant because they have a Panera. Another way we're not cool. Anyway, so we drove by this crystal and incense place. I'm like, oh, Duncan, look, there's our new health plan.
You don't need insurance. You got crystals.
We got
Exactly.
crystals. Sleep with this crystal under your bed, under your pillow. You'll be fine.
It's just gonna
It'll
get
do
my
it.
frequencies all the same. It's fine.
Exactly.
Oh man. All righty then.
All right. Yeah, I love it. All right. That's right. You can do all this again, you guys. If you want to support the brothers, sisters, and the fine work that we are doing, then by all means, please follow us on Spotify, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music. It doesn't cost you a cent. Our love don't cost a thing. See, look at me
Exactly.
dropping some
Love don't cost
cost
a
a
thing.
thing.
Oh my God,
Also,
you guys should have a telethon.
actually, I was just
idea.
thinking it's Giving Tuesday on Tuesday, so you can give by sharing us.
Exactly.
Honestly, just share us and then tell your people to share us and then tell those people to tell their people to share us. And again, share us with your friends, your enemies, anybody that you want to get under your skin. Share us because we're those libtards that everybody keeps talking about. Okay.
And they'll tell two friends, and they'll tell two friends, and so on, and so on, and so on.
And so on. Exactly. There you go. All right. Let's talk about the smart, dumb, fun stuff from this week. Chip, start us off.
All right. So for me, it was dumb and fun. We watched the movie Freebirds on Thanksgiving. My nephew was like, "We got to watch this movie." Of course, we didn't watch the whole thing. We watched it until dinner was ready, and actually, it's rather enjoyable. It's a 3D animated. I can't even think of the guy that always goes, "Wow." Owen something. Owen Wilson is the lead. And so the whole premise of the film is that the turkeys are going to go back in time to stop the first Thanksgiving. And it's quite adorable, actually. So we had a lot of fun just watching that and enjoying that before we started dinner.
Love it.
And my nephew does a really good imitation of, there's one of the birds that gives you the log line of the movie, like, we have to go back in time to blah, 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 blah. And then he repeats it a second time. And my nephew knows that by heart and, can just bring it up like that. So it's very entertaining.
Love that.
It sounds very cute.
Anne?
Oh, you know what? Duncan and I went, like I said, we went up to Traverse City and we went over to Empire, which is this little town right on the shores of Lake Michigan. Actually, we went there so we could go to Grocer's Daughter, which is my favorite chocolate place. And I got chocolates. And then we went to the public beach because they have a beautiful public beach there. And you know what? In November, there ain't a soul there. So, Duncan's like, I'm staying in the car. It's too cold. So I got out in the car and I walked up and down the beach. I found 2 big Petoskey stones. There were 2 eagles soaring over the lake, a juvenile and an adult. The water was nice and big. It was so gorgeous. And so it was just nice to have like 20 minutes of solitude because you know how it is on holidays. There's a lot bombarding you. And the Williams family is big. So it was just really nice to be on this beach on Lake Michigan, out in nature for a little bit, and just have a little bit of solitude before I had all the joy and laughter of family holidays.
Nice.
It's a good
I
plan.
love that.
Mhm.
So cool. Well, for me, I'm going to stick with the Thanksgiving theme as well for Smart Dumb Fun stuff. And, I had a lot going on this year for myself. So I went ahead and had somebody else prepare my turkey this year. And that somebody was Barrett Smokehouse over in Portage, Michigan. And I got to tell you, they really have their shit together. I'm sorry. They have their poop in a group. So they really made one of the most delicious turkeys I've ever had. It was a smoked turkey. It was a 15 pounder. It was delicious. Yeah, highly recommend that if you're going to do your Thanksgiving next year and you're looking for somebody to do it for you, they have everything. Go to Barrett Smokehouse. You can do just a turkey. You can do turkey with. They have literally all the fixings. They have mashed potatoes. They have macaroni and cheese. They have stuffing. They have
Oh my
pies
God.
from Yoder's down in Centerville. So they really do the full thing. I didn't love their mac and cheese. It's okay. I would say that was the one thing that I didn't necessarily enjoy, but everything else was quite tasty. So if you're looking for somebody to do up your Thanksgiving for you next year, the ordering process is really easy. You just go online, do your order, you show up with your order number. Some nice person hauls out all of your stuff, and there you go. Off you go. There's heating instructions on the turkey. It's super easy. So do it.
Nice.
It was
Nice.
delicious.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was good. Super good.
Cool.
Yes, it was extremely cool.
Well, after listening to
Yeah.
your podcast last week, I almost texted you on Wednesday night and just said, "Brine that bitch." But
I cannot stress you to enough. If you're gonna do your turkey, you got to brine that turkey. That's all I know. That's all I know for sure. So, hopefully, people learned a lesson from that. I hope so because
I found it
it's worth your time.
incredibly helpful.
So
Not that I ever
good. Well,
cooked,
I'm
but
glad.
now I know.
Yeah,
If
exactly.
you did cook, you would know that you absolutely want to brine your turkey. So there you go.
There you go.
All right, good. Okay, well, we are here to talk about the Glicked, which is the movie reviews with, of course, superstar reviewer Chip Moehle. Glicked is, of course, Gladiator II and Wicked, two movies, humongous blockbuster type movies that came out on the same day. Now, as it would turn out, Wicked actually kicked Gladiator's ass at the box office. So
Good.
Yeah.
we know where America wants to be. They want to be listening to some musical theater, and I get that. I dig that about America. So anyway, all right. So we have various reviews now. I'm going to kind of take a back seat on these reviews because I know, Chip, you really want to talk about Wicked, and Anne, I know you really want to talk about Gladiator 2. I'll probably throw my 2 cents in here and there, but honestly, this is all about you guys today. So, Chip, we're going to start with you, and we are going to start with The Wicked. Well, no, let's start with your Gladiator
Let's
2
start with
review
Gladi-
first, and then
Yeah.
we'll talk about
Well,
what
and
Wicked
I
is.
want to
Yeah.
address the Glicked of it all. Like the
Okay.
Barbenheimer thing made sense because these were two actual blockbuster films.
Yeah.
And they brought people back into the theaters. So
Yes.
trying to recreate that with these two films was really kind of a stupid idea.
Mhm.
But also, it was good because we need to get people back into the motherfucking theaters. But you know what works to do that? Creating quality films that people want to go to the movie theater to see. So, do that instead of coming up with stupid shit like Glicked and Barbenheimer.
Mhm.
I've said what I've said.
Okay.
Gladiator 2.
I hear you.
Gladiator 2. Oh my God. So this is, like I say, there is definitely an audience for this film. I am not part of that audience. I was not a big fan of the first film. I didn't see it on the big screen. I saw it after it got all the nominations, and I rented the video and I watched it and I thought, how in the world did this get nominated for Oscar awards of any type? And then when it won, I was like, how did this film win the best film of the year Academy Award? The only part I remember about that is, and I've said this many times, is Liz Taylor, high as a kite, handing out that award and going, the winner is Gladiator, Gladiator. And that I found very entertaining. So there was a little entertainment value. I thought that Joaquin Phoenix was very good in the first one. I'm going to be honest with you, I remember so little about it because I didn't like it. I thought Connie Nielsen was marvelous. Even though her role was very tiny, she had this presence on screen. But the thing is, again, was not really a fan of that first film. Really wasn't sure I wanted to see the second one. And I thought I reserve the right to walk out of this film if I need to. About 2/3 of the way through, it felt like it was actually gaining some depth. And then almost literally within 30 seconds of that, it all just went tumbling down into the hole.
And it never came back.
It never came back. Exactly. And I thought, well, at this point, I'm kind of locked into it. I'll stay till the end. And then part of me wanted it to have like an end credit scene, but like I wanted it to be like a Marvel superhero, like have absolutely nothing to do with Gladiator 2. And because I thought at least that would bring me into the next film.
Have gladiators sitting there eating some shawarma.
Exactly. And like Iron Man shoots him with his ray gun or some Thor hits him with his hammer.
Dinosaur jumps through the Coliseum and you're like, dude, what just happened?
Exactly. I was not a fan of the first movie. I've already said that. Denzel Washington, I want to tell you he was the best thing about this film. And I can say that with a very small margin. I mean, to me, this looked like he was given a script that he enjoyed and then they changed it on him. But honestly, the best part of the whole film is when he says the word politics. It's the best part of the whole goddamn film. Now, I'm hearing rumblings that he may be nominated as a supporting actor for this film. And all I can say is, please don't. This isn't that film.
No.
This is a man who is incredibly talented, who has done great work and who has been overlooked for that great work. Winning the award for this would seem a little bit like a slap in the face.
Yeah.
I've said what I've said. So I would not recommend Gladiators. Maybe, watch it on streaming. If you enjoyed the first one, this might be for you. But there's going to be plenty of times, like I said, when I was sitting there where I was like, oh my God. And even the people next to me were like, oh my God, at the same time. And I thought that's usually not the case. Usually I'm the one who's a little bit of a conceited jerk. But anyway, that's all I'm going to say about Gladiator 2, because I can't wait to hear what Anne has to say about Gladiator 2.
Oh man.
Wicked, however,
talk to us about Wicked.
I am a huge fan of the stage musical. I've seen it 4 times. I could see it 4 more. I've seen 3 good productions and 1 not so good production of it. But every time it gets me. For me, it's very emotional. It's kind of personal. So when they said they were going to make this movie, they've been talking about making this movie for like 10 years. And at one point they were talking about making it animated. And I was like, oh, no, that makes it too cutesy and stupid. Like, don't, I think they were worried about who they would cast. So they thought it'd just be easier to make it animated. And then for a while, there was another director, Stephen Daldry, who was with it. And then he backed out. And I thought, you guys got to get this done. And then they picked John Chu, who directed Crazy Rich Asians and In the Heights. And In the Heights was one of the first movies I watched coming out of the pandemic and was so impressed by it. Like, he literally took every musical number and did something different with it visually so that you were not bored. You could invest in each musical number. And so when I heard he was doing it, I thought, okay, I think this is a good choice. And then they cast the 2 witches, and Cynthia Erivo for me is magic. Absolute freaking magic. Look her up on YouTube. Yeah. The first time I ever heard her, she was singing the song I'm Here from The Color Purple. And you cannot stop bawling when you hear her sing this song. And then every time she would pop up, it was like, this woman is magic. She can do anything. And so I thought, yeah, she's absolutely perfect for this role. And then they announced Ariana Grande, and I thought, that works for me too. As a small child, she had seen the show many times and had actually gone backstage and met Kristen Chenoweth, who was the original Glinda, and got to know her, and Chenoweth became a mentor to her. So it just seemed like this was a lovely full circle moment.
Yeah, that's awesome.
For that.
I did not know that.
Yeah. So a little, you're going to get a little trivia. You're going to get a little bit of spoilers. So, either come along for the ride or, turn the volume down until Anne starts talking about Gladiator.
Do you mind if I make this big so we get your big, I want to see your face.
Get my big face. I am Oz, great and terrible.
Exactly. Good.
And I'm very pale. So then they announced, Jeff Goldblum, and I was kind of like, I was kind of hoping for Richard Gere. He had proven himself very well in Chicago, and I thought, well, okay, I can go on the ride with Jeff Goldblum. And then they announced Michelle Yeoh, who I just absolutely adore, but again was like, I don't know. this is kind of a tricky role. And she's not a singer. I mean, she sings, but she's not a singer. Both of them surprised me. Both of them were fantastic. All of the casting of this film was spot
very
on.
well cast. Yeah.
Peter Dinklage is the voice of Dr. Dilliman, the goat. I mean, it's just all the way down the line. Even Bowen Yang, just being Bowen Yang,
Yeah.
and then they created a role, Miss Coddle, for Keala Settle, who was in The Greatest Showman. She was the bearded lady and had that great song, This Is Me. And I thought, well, this is marvelous. And they must be writing a song for her. Well, no. Basically what they did is they've kind of given her a lot of what Madame Morrible had. I don't quite understand why, but it worked. And so I was worried going into it because I thought if I don't like this, it's going to be difficult because part 2 comes out in a year. And I don't want to be that guy that's like, well, this sucked. Now I got to wait a year to see if the other one sucks. And and I had seen Into the Woods years ago, which is another show I really love, and it just did not translate the movie version.
Sucked.
Yeah, it really was just so
it's not good.
disappointing. And I remember the only reason I teared up in that film was because my memories of my feelings of the original songs were what came back to me. But nothing that was happening on the screen was moving me in any way, shape, or form. They messed up the whole show by taking out the act break song, and it just was so this movie starts and I'm in. It's gorgeous. The opening title card is a homage to the Wizard of Oz's title card, and it gets going, and the opening number for me is very kind of violent. They're singing, she's dead, and no one mourns the wicked, and she was a lonely person. And there's a moment as they're singing where they light up her effigy, goes up in flames, and that part of the show on stage always gets me. But when the effigy went up, I was like, holy fuck, like these people hate this woman,
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, so we're in. Well, then it kind of slowed down for me. And I was like, okay, I'm not sure. I'm beginning to feel a little like I did with Into the Woods, but I'm sticking it out. And then Jonathan Bailey, who has literally cemented his place as America and the world's new boyfriend,
It's cute.
shows up on screen, and he does the song Dancing Through Life. And from that moment on, the movie is fucking brilliant. It moves. That's one thing I think about the stage show that's kind of difficult for people is the first act is long, but they move through a lot of information very quickly. So sometimes you miss kind of what's happening, or you think they just touched on that too lightly. Here, they fill it in enough that you're like, okay, this makes more sense to me. That there's a big plot point of the animals are being persecuted. But in the stage show, there's only one. Well, there's 2 animals. Whereas in the film, they actually give you animals in the beginning, and the song, that he usually sings with Alpha, but he sings with other animals. And it was just like, this is brilliant. Everything that he is marvelous. Absolutely what needed to happen.
Well, and that's one of those things one of those little things, like when she first gets to school and Elphaba first gets to Shiz, and she has her outburst and that little thing falls off where you see the animals underneath there. Like there's a big stone marker that's on top and it's covered up. When it falls away, you see all of the animals in the back that they've tried to hide and conceal. You're like, ooh, that's important. That's big. And, that's one of those little pieces that they are able to put in this production that you miss on the stage production.
Absolutely. Yeah. I'm so glad. I forgot about that moment, but I remember when it happened, I was like, oh, that was the nice part about this film was constantly throughout. I was like, oh, there were just, little things that he threw in there that they changed when she has her outburst in the class. On the stage show, she sort of freezes everybody, or they're kind of having a conniption or whatever. In the movie, he references the Wizard of Oz, and she has poppies float up in the air, and they put everybody to sleep. And I was like, this is such a wonderful.
Well, it was cool. It was a great tie between the 2 movies, and it just looks. It's actually very beautiful.
Yes.
that you have this little, because she brings poppies to the professor, and then they become this spell that she essentially showers on everybody except the prince. So
Yes.
you know.
Well, and the nice thing is too, I find with the stage show, when they bring the lion in the cage, it's so tiny that you can't necessarily tell what it is unless you know the story or have read the book. And we'll talk about that in a minute. You're kind of like, what is that? A squirrel? What the hell is that? You know, like, is it
Stuffed animal in a
is it
cage.
Elmo? Like what's in the cage? And you know, and they talk about the lion, but they're all talking so fast that you're like, I don't. And of course we all know there's a lion in the Wizard of Oz. So this is an Easter egg, you know, that will pay off later on. There's a spoiler for you. And
a bunch of them.
but I just, you know, a lot of people have complained about the color of the film, saying that it's too washed out. And I thought I enjoy that. There was a thing about this film that I liked, that it reminded me of musicals from the 70s. Like, I kept thinking, this reminds me of Chitty Chitty Bang Bang. It reminds me of Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. There's something that it has in common with those. So I didn't care about I mean, there's so much color on that screen that you can desaturate it and I'm fine. You know, what I'm wondering is how that will change in the second film. Like, there is nothing in this film that isn't intentional. So I really liked it because it is very faithful to the stage show. There's so few things that they changed, and they were such minor changes that you really get the first act of Wicked, and you get it on a much bigger scale. You know, you get a enormous orchestra instead of a tiny little pit crew playing all the music, and you get these marvelous cameos. And if you haven't seen the movie, turn the volume down right now. There's 4 cameos. You've got the original witches, Idina Menzel and Kristen Chenoweth, who show up during the One Short Day number.
Adele Azim.
Adele Nazim. And I had heard rumor they were going to be in it, but I'm watching it, and that moment comes, and they give you just enough of a, you know, like an introduction, and then they don't come right out. And then, like, a few seconds later, they walk out, and you're literally like, "Oh my god!" You know, like, I'm such a 12-year-old girl when I see this, and I don't mean that to be condescending. I'm a 12-year-old girl when I see this. And they do their part, and even she has the Easter egg. Idina Menzel, the end of the song "Defying Gravity," the character has the war cry, "Ah!" And so she actually has that moment in that song. And it's like, oh my God, they thought of everything. And then as they're telling the story of the wizard, there's a woman in the audience who says, "That man can read the book. He must be a wizard." Well, she's the woman who wrote the script for the play, and wrote the script for the movie. And then as they are ending the song, there's a character who says, "The wizard will see you now." And that's Stephen Schwartz, who wrote all the music.
Nice.
And that's the only thing I'll say is he fumbled that line. In the stage play, it's very exciting. Like, "The wizard will see you now." And he's very like, "The wizard will see you now." And you're like, "Honey, you're in theater. You're in theater."
It's your one line. Why are you so
That's
sad?
your
You
job.
could have done a couple takes, maybe 80 yard this or something. I don't know. But so, yeah. So I, you know, the thing is, it doesn't drag you along. It pulls you along. Each moment, there's something emotional. Even the songs that I don't particularly care for, "Dancing Through Life," "I'm Not That Girl," moved me, just incredibly watching this. Arrivo, her performance is so touching that just watching her eyes or just watching her lips, you feel something. Ariana Grande is perfectly comedic in this role and had me rolling on the floor. And she does this lovely homage. Like, the way she speaks is half Kristen Chenoweth and half her. It's really, it's lovely. It's a great full circle moment again. I'm sorry, I'm looking at my notes just to see where I'm. They absolutely captured the emotion that I felt from watching the stage play, but they were able to deepen it in such a way that I can't stop thinking about it. I mean, I've got like 4 or 5 more people lined up to go see it with.
sing
when I
with all of
listen
them.
when I listen to Defying Gravity on the streaming service, all I can see it. I can see the movie in front of me,
Well,
and
and that I thought they did a really great job with that particular number.
so
You know, it's the defining moment of the play anyway,
yeah.
and I thought they brought they really brought the spectacle because that they took their time on that number. They put, that was 10, 12, 15 minutes worth of
Yes.
screen time for that to complete that song. And I loved the fact that it they skimped on nothing when it
Yeah.
came to that scene. And um I actually love her version. I've never liked Idina Menzel's version of that because
Oh, okay.
she gets under my skin because of the way she breathes when she sings. It's so just this when she's inhaling, it drives me nuts. I was doing it for Joe in the car on the way home, and so what I really loved about her rendition of it is it's so clean and just sounds so powerful and great. And I was like, oh my gosh, I love this so much more than Idina Menzel's version of this because she just at no point does she seem out of control at any point during that number.
Yeah.
You just feel so confident with her in that role.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love that his tribute to it because that's the point in the stage show where she flies.
Right.
She literally, I've seen how they do it, but, she says, Glinda's not the one you want. It's me. And then she flies up. And there's a shot in the film where she's in that same, I don't know, mise en scène, whatever, that same sort of space. And it's like the fact that he thought of doing that,
Yeah.
even it was just so moving to me. And the moment when she's falling, when she first jumps out the window, thinking she can fly, and she's falling, and she looks at the reflection, and it's her younger self.
Which was
Oh,
awesome.
and she
Like,
reaches
oh,
out
that's
and
good.
touches,
Yeah.
and as soon as she does, she flies.
Yeah. The broom
I was like,
hits her hand, and you're like, that's
Jesus.
awesome. Yeah.
So yeah, it's funny. I was emotional during the movie, but not as much because I was so guarded. Like, is this going to suck? Is this going to suck? Is this going to suck? So that I know this next time I see it, whoever I'm going with is going to be like, I'm sorry, you're going to be embarrassed.
Well, and that's what, like Joe and I were sitting there and it ended, and the little preteens that were in the rows in front of us were just like, oh, because that big to be continued side flashed up. And I get it because you're like, at that moment, you are fully invested in what's happening. And the story takes such a grand turn at that point. You're like, oh, and then boom, you're like, oh, another year? Fuck me. I might be dead in a year. It's that sort of.
I know. And I'm upset about
know.
that. Like, they should have done
You
6
know.
months. It should have been 6 months,
Yeah.
not a year.
Yeah.
I
That's a
realized
long
that they
way.
got to make their money and all that shit. But it's like, oh my God, a year? Seriously?
Well, and one of the things that like it or not, if you're at a stage production, unless you have awesome seats, you're missing a lot of the emotional impact that goes with many of the things that you're seeing and feeling in that number. And that's what's cool about cinema is that you can, like that scene where she's doing the dancing at the party or with the club or whatever it's called. That scene is powerful.
Oh.
Because you're like right there. You are
Yeah.
close up on both of those women as they're having this moment, and it's like, ooh. And you miss that during the stage production. You just do. It's so far away.
Yeah.
And you're missing the connection that they're having at that moment. That connection of things changing for both of them in that moment. So really liked that. I liked the fact that I'm like, okay, I finally get to see this up close. I finally get to see what I've been missing.
Yeah.
So
I agree. That moment is so precious.
it is. It's really powerful.
Yeah.
It's just like it gives you the feels.
Yeah.
I was like, I was not prepared for those feels.
And again, it was the two actresses. Like,
yeah.
and
that's one of the. I'm going to just jump in with a quick. Like I said, I'm not going to really review these. I'm just going to say that I like them both so much for different reasons because Cynthia Erivo really carries the emotional impact of the story. I mean, this is her story, and she carries it. And like, come Oscar time, she should be nominated. She should win as far as I'm concerned. And then Ariana Grande is such a great just performer. She really is. Really just has gained so much stature just watching her do her thing this last month. Seeing her on Saturday Night Live, and where she just crushed it.
Yeah.
And then seeing it in this movie where she again really crushes what she is supposed to do. She is absolutely captures what Glinda is, especially in this movie. So I was like, yeah, this kid really did a great job. She's not the performer. She's not She doesn't have the gravitas that Cynthia Erivo does, but she did. I thought she was perfectly cast,
Absolutely.
and she sounds great.
Yeah.
She has a fantastic voice.
Yeah. I was, I'm happy they did the songs, note for note, but they made them theirs.
Yeah.
Which I really liked. So, I mean,
Agreed.
I'll stop here because we're at 40 minutes. But I'm just going to say this. They did it. Like, if you're a Wicked fan and you're worried, they did it. Go see it.
Yeah.
And if you're not a Wicked fan, go. And if you don't like it, get up and go see Gladiator 2.
There you go. Walk across the hall and go see Gladiator. But, and I get it. I can get why people would be nervous because there's a lot of really great musicals that they've effed up moving them from the stage to the cinema. And I had a little list going here. My list for ones they effed up. They effed up Les Mis, which, they effed it up anyway because I hate Les Mis. But they effed up Into the Woods. They effed up Sweeney Todd. So those are the ones where you're just like, the one they didn't F up was Chicago. And so we all had hope after Chicago, and then they effed up everything else since, except Wicked. They did not mess that one up. So Good job, Hollywood.
Yes.
So
we're so happy. We're so relieved. And I'm looking forward to the second movie. The second act of the play is shorter than the first act, but supposedly they've written 2 new songs for the second act, for the second movie. And I'm like, we kind of need that. We need a little bit more. But the second act has some bangers in it as well. So it's like,
yeah.
I can't wait to see it.
I left the theater thinking, I would really like to see the second half of this. I wasn't sure, but I'm sure now.
Yay.
All right. All right, Ann Brothers. Ann Brothers has been sharpening her knives for a couple days to talk about Gladiator 2. So, Ann Brothers, we turn it over to you, Gladiator 2. You guys know how I feel about it. I talked about it last week. Ann, hit it.
All right. Well, unfortunately, I have not seen Wicked yet. I was planning on seeing them both this weekend. And I saw Gladiator 2 first. And after I saw it, I was so angry and I had so many opinions that I could not go and see another movie because I hated this movie so fucking much. I too am also a fan of the first Gladiator. And though I don't think it's the most brilliant movie, I think it was a compelling movie. I enjoyed seeing it on the big screen. I thought it was very unique and original. So did I think it was Oscar worthy? No, but I really enjoyed the movie. It's one of those movies that I'll stop if it's on. I'll stop and watch it just because it was a good film. They got a lot of things right. Gladiator 2 is pointless. Nobody asked for this. Maximus, the main character, the Russell Crowe character in Gladiator, died in the first movie. Nobody thought there would be a second movie because he died. I'm like, the only way this movie could have been worse is if they said it was a dream. Oh, he didn't die. It was a dream. And we brought back Russell Crowe and stuck him in a corset and a breastplate. Now he's off to fight sharks. That would have been the only thing to make this movie worse than it actually was. So this movie was boring. It is a huge, as Jenny described it, sandals and sword. This was an expensive movie with an expensive cast, and it was boring. Oh my gosh. It was, I'm watching blood squirt on the camera, and I was like, oh, so boring.
Joe and I napped. We both napped during this movie at certain points. I'm like, I had to nudge Joe because he was snoring, and at one point I found myself. I'm like, I think I snored, but.
Yeah, just so boring. If the thing is, like, the first part of it, they just pretty much parodied the first Gladiator movie. Honestly, if I wanted to see Gladiator again, honestly, people, if you need to see a Gladiator movie, get Paramount streaming and rewatch Gladiator. Do not watch this movie. And it had a decent start. They kind of do a review of the first movie in scenes that are all painted. It's quite interesting and lovely. Yeah. It was really very beautiful.
Excited about that.
Me too. And then the first battle scene is compelling, and then it's all down the hill from there. And then it's just like literally they took like the best lines or even just iconic lines from the movie and then just had different people saying them. I felt like I was at an old theater party when I was in college, and all the dude actors were saying lines from their Repo movie that they loved best. You know, I just felt like I was doing that, only everybody was wearing sandals and togas. Ugh. Okay. Sharks. Okay, sharks. Have we not seen the episode of Happy Days where Fonzie jumps a shark? That was the end of the episode of Happy Days franchise. Don't bring sharks into your movie unless your movie is about sharks. Obviously, the writers, and I use that term loosely, don't know how sharks work, and I'm pretty sure they don't know how water works. You know, so that scene was terrible. They flood the Colosseum with water, which I understand they probably did, and then they put sharks in it. I was like, is Rome near an ocean that has great white sharks? Oh,
And where did they store them in the meantime?
exactly. I was like, well, we got them on ice until we need them, you know, because we have refrigeration and other tanks. And
That exasperated.
yeah,
Dude, you know
so
what would
I
be
was
so cool in this scene is if we had sharks.
Sharks.
Ross, it's a great idea. Sharks. Sorry.
oh
Ann.
my
I interrupted you.
God. Okay. And then another thing, it is 2024. I am sick and tired of the gay villain trope. Let's
Amen.
take a couple of men, we'll dress them up in it like girly, in a girly way, and then we'll make them the evil villains. I was like, really? 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 We're still doing that?
Yeah.
I'm like, I won't even go statistically in the fact that the people that commit the most murders are straight white men. But, you know, I'm just like, when I saw that, I was like dislocated an eye, rolling my eyes. I was so pissed off. I'm like, oh, this is lazy. I mean, lazy. I mean, at least the shark thing was like, yeah, sharks. But I mean, the gay villain trope is so it's just fucking lazy and embarrassing.
Yeah, it is. It's embarrassing.
It was a way to like, oh, I know, I don't have to say anything. I'll just put this on the screen and then you'll understand. I was like, oh, lazy, degrading, stupid. It was stupid. The first half of the movie, like I said, was clipped together bits and pieces of the original movie. And the second half of the movie was the sick my cat leaves on the rug. So, I mean, it was just so freaking crappy. I mean, at one point, it's not, like I said, it's not just pointless, but it was so boring. At one point, I heard another patron in the theater with me snoring. And then I hear somebody I was like, yeah, it was that bad. It was that bad. The movie was so long, my butt started to hurt, and I really had to pee. It's like making me so angry. I spent a big chunk of the movie wondering what I was going to have for dinner. So
I can tell how much I like a movie by how often I check my watch. Like, I only checked my watch once during Wicked last night, and I checked my watch so often during Gladiator that pretty much after a while I was just watching my watch.
exactly.
I kept pulling my phone out.
There weren't enough flies in this movie. You know, it's like everything was so like they tried instead of, you know, Jenny, I think you said something earlier that their visual effects were terrible, and they were. You could tell they spent a lot of money on this movie, but what they spent a lot of money on, it was making it look shiny. So, you know, there was no realism to it. It wasn't, it didn't get into what maybe life was like in Rome during this time period, where you got a little bit like in the Gladiator, in the first scene of that film, when they have the battle with the Germanian tribes, you get a real idea of what it would probably be like to be a Roman in the winter in Germany. You know, there's a grittiness to it and a gravitas. This movie did not have any of that. They just tried to make it really shiny, and everybody wore really pretty togas. It was stupid. I was enraged with what they did with the character Lucilla, which is played by Connie Nielsen. I thought that was a very interesting character, and she was in a lot more of this movie, and it was so bland and so watered down. And I was just like, there could have been so much they did with that. Instead, what they gave us was that somehow she and Maximus, the first character in the first movie, fathered her son Lucius, and then she somehow misplaced him in the desert. That was her character in this. I was like, what the fuck? And
okay, I'm going to timeline that because it doesn't make any sense. Because in Gladiator, Lucius and his son were about the same
at the
age,
same
and like
age,
he was super into his wife, and
right?
he wasn't. I'm like, they talk about the history of those guys being years prior to
Prior,
this
yeah,
story happening in, again, plot holes a mile deep and a mile wide. Sorry,
yeah.
that one has. I'm like, I could not get over that. Sorry. Anyway,
No, no, and it was because it was like, okay, so now not only is she a bad mother, she's also a slut. So is that what I'm supposed to get? So I have the gay villains and a slutty mother. Great, great. We're not lazy at all. In fact,
What is
the
this, the
writers.
Bible?
Yeah, exactly. In fact, the writers couldn't be bothered to learn anything about ancient Roman politics, how that worked, or how Roman dynasties worked, or how Roman military worked. And if they could have, they might have made a compelling sequel. And when I said I spent most of the last 45 minutes of the film thinking about what I was going to have for dinner, actually, I spent the last 45 minutes of the film coming up with my own sequel.
Ooh.
And I think I did a pretty good job. So in my sequel, in the second movie, we focus on Lucilla, the Connie Nielsen character, and how she protects her son and co-rules until he comes of age, or even after that. And how do we do this? Well, I've studied enough of early Roman women to know that a woman like Lucilla would have been taught from birth about politics. And we saw that in the first movie. She was very politically savvy. And the reason why they would have done this is because
can I interrupt?
No, go
Sorry.
ahead.
He says that to her at the beginning of
In the
Gladiator.
beginning of the
Oh,
movie.
had you only been a man, what a Caesar you would have made. Sorry, go ahead.
No, that's exactly right. And that's the thing. It's like any powerful Roman family would have made their daughters very politically savvy because her job was to get married to somebody political and raise up the whole family. So she would have been the most politically savvy woman because she had the most to lose. Anyway, she would have learned politics from birth to safeguard her family, maintain their power, and establish more power for herself, and as much power as she could possibly establish for herself, considering her time and place. She wouldn't have given up anything. She certainly wouldn't have sent her son away. At the end of this movie, at the end of the first movie, she has the Senate, the Roman people, and the military on her side. In other words, she has all the power and all the goodwill. She's in a perfect fucking position to set herself up and her son up as the next rulers. She would make herself indispensable to her son, so that even once he got married and established himself as Caesar, she would have still been his number one advisor. She would have gotten her son betrothed as soon as possible to some wealthy noble family that she could control and that would help protect her son and create more alliances. She would distance herself and her son from her brother and yet reinforce her relationship to her father, Marcus Aurelius, who was very popular with the people, and then Maximus, who was beloved by the military. So she would have really solidified that. She would have built an alliance with members of the Senate and gotten new senators elected who were on board with her agenda. She would have kept the fickle mob on her side with lots of bread and circus, baby. Who needs healthcare when you have cage fights and Doritos? So she would have done more of that. So you could have had some more gladiator fights. She would have gotten her face and her son's face on money as soon as possible. They would have built statues of herself and her son with her father. She would have bribed, blackmailed, made hostages, and killed anyone who threatened her. I would watch this movie. And I know all this is possible because there's actually ancient Roman women we have history of who actually did this shit. So first we have Livia, and she was the second wife of Augustus I, who was a Roman emperor, and she did the same thing. She made sure that her sons had all the power they needed to ascend into the into upper echelons in society. And she did this all in a very kind of passive, what would have been considered a very Roman woman way to behave. But what she did was she set the template for more Roman women. So the next one is Fluvia. And she was from a wealthy plebeian family, which means she was from a noble family, but not a royal family. So she married 3 times, and her last marriage was to Mark Antony. You may remember Mark Antony and Cleopatra. Anyway, she was on money. She was so politically savvy and powerful that her face is on money. That's right. In fact, she was all 3 of her husbands. She built political power with all 3 of her husbands, and all 3 of her husbands thought of her as their first and foremost advisor. That's how powerful she was. And her daughter, Claudia, was the first wife of Octavia, later known as Augustus, the first Roman emperor. So that's how, I mean, she went from being a commoner, basically, to having her daughter become an empress. And then, of course, Agrippa the Younger. I love this woman. She was the 4th wife and niece of Emperor Claudius and the mother of Nero. And she ruled. Nero wasn't even, okay, so the Emperor Claudius, Nero wasn't even his son. It was her son. And she got Claudius to name him over his own sons as emperor. And then she had his sons killed. And she probably killed her husband too.
Oh my God.
In fact, her rule was so great that Nero ended up having her killed.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, she was such a threat to his power that he had his own mother killed.
Wow.
Yeah. So this was actually a thing. Like, that character of Lucilla could have actually been one of these women. They had the potential to make that movie, and they didn't. Instead, they made me watch that movie and then think about making a better movie.
I would go see your movie.
I would totally go
Opinions.
see your movie, Anne.
Yeah.
Yes.
So that's my rough draft of the movie, and this is proof that it could work. So
Okay.
Get it.
Well done, Ann Brothers. Yeah, I
have already
nothing to offer.
put more effort and thought into this than they ever did into Gladiator 2.
Well, and I'll say this. There's talk of a Gladiator 3.
Oh,
I have heard that.
And I'm like, this should be Gladiator 3.
yeah, well,
yeah, but
wasted.
Yeah, they wasted because, of course, they killed Lucilla in this movie.
They do, but
Again.
they could go back, and this could be the film between the first one.
You
and
know
the second.
what? It was always a dream.
It was a dream.
It was a dream. Lucius Gracchus dreamed that they killed his mother, or no,
Oh my
Lucius
God.
Verus, that was his name. So yeah,
And
Yeah.
I don't know if historically everybody was named what they were named, but it was like Maximus, Daphidus, Maximus,
Maximus
mischievous.
Decimus Meridius.
Everybody's
thank you.
got an is. I'm like, you know what? Here's where creative license comes in. Call him Mark Cressidas Johnson. I mean, just for the love of
Just
God, I don't need them all of your names to end with is.
Yeah, it just, and I guess what really pissed me off is that this character, this Lucilla, she would have never set her son away. That was her.
Oh, hell no.
she would have
Not when you consider
never
how
done
hard she worked to keep him alive when Commodus
Yes.
was emperor.
Exactly.
You're not going to do that. It was so much.
You know, and that's when you talk about a plot point, you know, like deep. I mean, she would have never, ever sent him away. That was her key to power. Her son was her key to power.
And like you said, the
Yes.
whole sort of like, I sent you away and I looked for you, but then I couldn't find you.
But then I
And I'm
didn't
like,
find you, so
that
I
was
married
it?
this other guy, and now I
Yeah,
have
it
a
was
pond
like-
with koi in it.
I'm like, that's some weak writing.
Yeah, that weak ass shit is what you're looking
Mhm.
for. Yeah, it was bad. It was a bad movie. Yeah, it's yeah.
Mhm.
I have
But
nothing
go
for
see
it. I'm not gonna-
Wicked.
But go see
Because
Wicked.
Here's
rules.
things you should see. These are things. So yeah, go skip Gladiator. Go see Wicked because Wicked actually. I mean, I
It's
think-
wicked.
yeah,
it's wicked good.
It's worthwhile.
Mhm.
So we made a list of other stuff that you can watch. So if you like Wicked, you might also like some of these. If you want to see something other than Gladiator 2, you might want to see some of these. So Chip, give us your list here of things that you might want to watch.
So Singing in the Rain is always a winner. Always a winner. Mary Poppins, Sound of Music, Julie Andrews. Auntie Mame is not a musical, and don't get it confused with the musical Mame with Lucille Ball. That is a terrible fucking movie. But the movie Auntie Mame with Rosalind Russell is absolute brilliance. And then, of course, that should say In the Heights, but I was typing it on my tiny little phone and wrote I'm the Heights. So take a moment and watch In the Heights. Same director as Wicked, and he really does some marvelously beautiful things on film.
Nice. So for me, if you're into the musical thing, Chicago's the best musical. I think it's one of the best ever
I agree.
adaptations from stage to screen. It's so good. And I could watch that a bazillion times. It's so
Same.
well cast and well acted. Love it.
I can't do it alone.
Oh my gosh. Well, and again, I think Chicago's one of those musicals where every number is fucking great. So there's not a loser.
I saw it with Leanne Danner and Jim Floyd, and I sat next to Leanne and I kept saying, who's overdubbing Renee Zellweger? And she's like, no, that's Renee Zellweger. She's singing. And I was like, okay. And then a few minutes would go by and I'm like, no, really, who's overdubbing Renee Zellweger? And she was like, no, that's really Renee Zellweger. And I'm like, okay.
Yeah,
it took me a long time to actually believe it. It was that good.
Well, because I'm not super familiar with the original Broadway production. I am very familiar with the revival that they did in the 90s with Bebe Neuwirth and Ann Reinking, and I really love that version of it. So I was super skeptical going into the movie, and every actor in that made those characters their own, which I absolutely loved. And again, it's so clever how they stage it because it becomes like a stage production within a movie within a stage production. It's just so fucking clever. I just love the way that movie is filmed, staged. Everything about it is damn near perfect as far as taking a stage production and making it into a movie. So
agreed.
All right, Sound of Music, Hamilton. You're going to need Disney Plus for that, and that's technically not a movie. It's a film. It's a video of a stage production, which is very well done. The South Park movie, which is a shockingly amazing musical.
It is.
Just be forewarned if you are uncomfortable with foul language and foul ideas, that movie is foul-mouthed from start to finish, and it's glorious. The original if you need a swords and sandals movie, you need to watch either the original Gladiator or 300, because 300 is visually stunning, and there is just a lot of nice men to look at in that movie. Okay. Anne?
I said if you wanted to see some sand and sandals and sword movie, actually it's a series on Max. It's called Rome, and it's a great story. They do a really good job with it. If you want to listen to a podcast, The Exploress, she does a whole thing on women, what women's lives were like in ancient Rome, and then of course some of the women that I just talked about. So that's a great podcast for that. The Six is an awesome musical. In fact, Chip and Jenny are going to go see it with me in January. So that's about the six wives of Henry VIII. Cabaret is one of those. I like a good dark musical, and I think that they actually did a pretty good job with the movie of this as well. And then if you just need something, again, if you need some sandals and some swords, and you want to look at some hot male bodies, it is not a brilliant show, but it's on Stars. It's Spartacus, especially the first two seasons. It's very entertaining and very sexy, and way better than Gladiator II. It's like I said, not brilliant, but very entertaining. So
love that. Love it.
Excellent.
So yeah, well done. Woo, you guys, you took. I basically just ate popcorn and listened to you guys do your thing. But yeah, that was awesome.
Oh man.
So you did it. You survived yet another hour with the brother sisters and sister from another Mr. Chip Moehle. And we talked all about movies today. Specifically, we talked about Gladiator II sucked and Wicked didn't suck. And we're really glad that you joined us. Chip, you are a superstar. And thank you for coming on and being our entertainment expert, because you brought all of that, just your entertainment expertise. And I love the fact that I consider you to be a Wicked expert. So that's fantastic. And
thanks for having me on.
You brought You're welcome, and you did a great job bringing your historical perspective. I'm really excited about your Gladiator 3. It was just a dream.
I agree. I would see that.
Looking forward to that. So again, you guys, audience, thank you for joining us. Thank you for sticking with us. Remember, we want to hear from you. Please answer our poll questions. Give us your questions, concerns, comments, and
Confessions.
That's right. Confessions of a movie review. And remember, you can always support the Brother Sisters for free. Like, follow, subscribe, leave a review, Spotify, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music. Smash that button. Tell your people to smash that button.
Smash
Let's
that
go.
button. Do it.
Do it. Smash it. So
Ugh.
there you go. I was reading the other day that there needs to be a Joe Rogan podcast for liberals, and I'm like, that's us. Why
That's
not
us.
us?
Hello.
Hello. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So anyway, join us next week, you guys. We are going to be talking about Chip. Do you want to? Have you been watching the news Somebody Somewhere? Have you been
I
watching the
have.
new season?
I have.
You want to come on next week and talk with us about
I
this?
think so. I have to look at my schedule, but yes.
Yeah, no worries. But that's what we're talking about next week. In fact, I
Okay.
got to get to work because I've been rewatching it. I'm still in the middle of season 1, so I actually towards the end of season 1. But there you go. So yeah, you guys, join us next week. Oops, I'm playing the wrong song. There we go. Here we go. So yeah, you guys, join us next week when we talk about the show Somebody Somewhere, one of the best shows you're not watching on HBO Max.
Very true.
Mhm.
Until then, I am Janice Brothers, and with me is my sister
And brothers.
and sister from another mister.
Chimeli!
That's right, you guys. Thanks for joining us. We want you to get out there. We want you to do something smart, do something dumb, do something fun. We are out of here.